On today's World Insight, U.S. Trade Representative Katherine Tai said that both China and the U.S. will reassess the Phase 1 trade deal soon. Is an end to the trade war on the horizon? And we hear from foreign companies participating in the Hainan Expo. How do they see China's latest opening up? Here is our host, Tian Wei.
Hello and welcome to World Insight. I'm Tian Wei. Let's begin with the China-U.S. trade relations. U.S. government has expressed an expectation of holding dialogue with leading Chinese trade officials for a review of the Phase 1 trade deal, the first time since U.S. President Joe Biden took the White House. The last time the two biggest economies discussed the Phase 1 trade deal was in August last year. The deal stipulates that senior-level consultations take place every 6 months. Beijing and Washington have held talks on climate change, diplomacy, and strategic topics since March. So, what can we expect from this trade negotiation if there is going to be one? Could the Phase 1 trade deal be maintained? And what's likely to happen next? Let's loop in our panelists from Washington and Beijing. For the China and U.S. trade latest in Washington, D.C., Jeffrey Schott, Senior Fellow at the Peterson Institute for International Economics. In Washington, D.C. also, Arthur Dong, Professor at Georgetown University's McDonough School of Business. In Beijing, Liu Baocheng, Professor and Dean of the Center for International Business Ethics from University of International Business and Economics. Gentlemen, welcome to the program. When and under what occasions that the trade officials from both sides are going to meet is still unknown. But if that meeting takes place, what do you think should be the issues being discussed? Mr. Schott, can you give a short list?
Well, I think the list is going to be very short because there is no political pressure in Washington to change the existing agreement right now, and a lot of pressure to see the commitments that China made in terms of purchases of U.S. exports and reforms on investment in intellectual property policies to those reforms be implemented. There are some companies that want to see a relaxation of some of the tariffs, but politically it's very difficult for the new U.S. Trade Representative, Katherine Tai, to make any steps that would tend to back off what was done by the Trump administration. So I think the status quo is going to remain for some time.
Professor Dong, there were earlier expectations once the new administration, now not new anymore, but new administration came in, there might be improvement of relations, particularly on the trade front, because that's where the business interests are, but not much. Do you think the administration volunteers to tie their hands on this issue, or there's likely to be further space if there is any?
Thank you, Tian. That's a great question. I would agree with Jeff on this question of the Biden administration's policies as well as outlook for U.S.-China trade. I believe they're going to slow walk it. Certainly, for the first 100 days, President Biden had taken a across-the-board review of American supply chain. So that's certainly going to be one of the issues that comes up in their discussions with China. But I think it's going to be business as usual. There's a lot of momentum in terms of the residual impact of the trade negotiation that was undertaken by President Trump. And I don't see any sentiment whatsoever to make major changes moving forward.
Professor Liu, from China's perspective, what would be on that short list, if there is any?
Well, of course, the high expectation for China is that for the U.S. to bring up a sort of timetable to remove the tariff over the 370 billion of Chinese exports to the United States now that the Phase 1 agreement is under active implementation. And also China is also open to work with the United States on the climate change issues and how to translate the climate change consideration into the bilateral trade. And in the meantime, China does want to communicate with the United States over the improvements China has made along the Phase 1 agreement, which is also in the interest of the Chinese development program.
When the trade representatives or officials from both sides might not necessarily going to agree upon things, particularly during the very first round, it is very interesting if I could brief all of you about the recent trip I made to Hainan, which is China's first ever International Consumer Products Expo in Hainan. Hainan is also the free trade port, the very first in China. The enthusiasm was extremely high. I noticed from the consumers, the media, the businesses. Mr. Shao, two things I want to share with you. First of all, businesses are telling me, both Chinese and non-Chinese, that they want certainty. That's not news, but they particularly emphasize now because they do not know where is the limits and how they should adjust themselves beforehand about those limits, as posting has been shifting all the time. The other thing that they want to say is that they don't want to withdraw from the China market. They try to appeal to all circumstances to the extent that they can. Now, Mr. Shah, what would that mean to China-U.S. businesses in real terms, not just in political terms?
Well, both concerns of the business community are understandable. And the previous administration policy was very volatile, and that made it very difficult to plan. Even when you had new protection introduced, you didn't know whether it was going to go up one day or go down the next day, or how other types of policies were going to be imposed that would undercut investment strategies. I think under President Biden, there is a little more certainty that you are not going to have this volatile change from day to day or week to week or tweet to tweet. But you're also not going to have, I think, in the near term, a resolution or an amelioration of the trade friction when you are having ongoing and very severe frictions on the commercial side. And that's something that the diplomats have to be able to manage. The politicians have to be able to keep their cool and manage it as well.
I don't see much of management skills, in fact, from the U.S. side. China side, I'm going to ask the Professor Liu also, let's have more scrutiny as well. But Mr. Shah, if I could be a little bit more specific, I haven't seen efforts compared to the earlier times about how the new administration will really map out the plan. It seems to me, and many Chinese looking at what the U.S. is trying to do, is you got a crisis back at home. Now you are trying to, I'm not saying personally you, but rather the U.S. government is trying to make every effort to contain China, while at the same time is trying to fight the fire back at home because it cannot have a solution right now. But that does not solve the U.S. problem. That's the key. Meanwhile, if I could just share, the first few months of trade between China and the United States rise sharply compared to last year. Of course, last year was low, but this time it also means certain kind of momentum. The politicians are talking about one thing, but businesses are doing very different things. So, Mr. Shah, I'm really wondering whether we're going to have further divide in the United States because of the current policy that is not really interacting with the real issues that businesses are concerned.
I don't think so. I have to disagree with your conclusions, if not, though not with your analysis of the situation.
Go ahead.
I think I think there is a very strong bipartisan support in the United States for for this restrictive policy vis-a-vis China.
But that's political, isn't
On
it? The bipartisan thing,
It's
it's very
political. It is
political, right?
political.
What we are talking about now is the
Absolutely.
differences between the political side and the real business side. That's the issue. And the real consumer side. That is the issue. American families are paying more than $1,000 household every year in order to get more expensive product if they are not including Chinese products into the supply chain. That's going to make a huge difference.
Well, be careful about using studies from a year or two ago that don't take account of the changes that have taken place in supply chains since that study was done.
What's the
And a
current
lot
number
of Chinese
now?
companies.
What is the current number now, Mr. Shaw?
Oh, I don't have it on the top of my
Okay,
head.
got it. All right.
But the real what has happened is that Chinese companies have begun to source to the United States from their foreign subsidiaries. And so you're still getting a lot of products, probably not as efficiently as if they were shipped from the original Chinese factory, but you're still getting a lot of products. So a lot of the inefficiencies or added costs are over time being reduced as businesses are adapting to the current restrictions. That's why they say they don't want the volatility and uncertainty, because they know what they're doing today and they can plan a way of doing it better.
Right.
But if suddenly there's a brand new set of restrictions put up on trade and investment, that would throw off the plans that they've made for these recalibrated supply chains.
Professor Liu, tell me more about how do you see the issue?
Mr. Shaw talked about the sort of increased certainties over this Joe Biden administration. He got a point, but in the meantime, China is also facing a different type of uncertainty because with Trump, it's more like a one-on-one the trade competition, but now it seems that the Biden administration has changed this logic by teaming up with more of their trade allies, with more ideological consideration attached. And so that also injects a new type of uncertainty into the situation, and how the U.S., their labor interests can be taken into consideration. And there is also a strong rhetoric about climate change, but what is really the specific measures that can be brought up and also can be implementable between these two biggest economies over those climate change issues. And then also for infrastructure development, shall these two countries can work together also in consideration with the climate change. So that's also something uncertain. And lastly, I think now the U.S. administration, particularly now, they are listening more to the Congress. And while the Congress people, by the bipartisan type of consensus that they really wanted to corner whether Chinese companies investing overseas are really contributing to Chinese exports in different paths. So that's something they wanted to take into consideration. But so far, we do not really see any type of realistic measure that can be taken to contain such sort of move.
Professor Dong, it seems that both of the two earlier speakers suggest politics. Is politics the dominating factor now, influencing China-U.S. trade ties?
Absolutely, Tian. Politics is playing a huge role in terms of the speed and the degree to which the Biden administration is approaching U.S.-China trade at this moment. When you think about the Republican Party as well as the leadership of the Democratic Party, both are in agreement that for some communities within the United States, there's growing sentiment amongst the electorate that trade has not been good for everybody. Now, certainly, as alluded to by Professor, that certainly American consumers can get cheaper goods and more abundance. But there are certainly communities within the United States that have been affected by a job loss, as well as the hollowing out of their industrial base. And it was in those communities that most vocally voted for and supported President Trump in the 2016 election.
Right. How would the U.S. be able to do it while its own businesses' interests also involve so much in the innovation side?
Yes, I think with under President Biden, you're going to see a very, very direct and strong approach with regard to the transfer of technology. This is a carryover view from the Trump administration. And I think anything that touches upon national security will come under severe sort of scrutiny in the United States, as well as next generation technologies such as AI, cloud computing, autonomous vehicles, and things of this sort. These are all areas, and biotechnology, these are all areas that are going to be scrutinized. And so they're going to resort to the toolkit that they used in the past several years, which is export controls, as well as examining what portions of our supply chain in the United States have become vulnerable as a result of COVID.
Professor Liu, that put China into a very interesting position, isn't it? But has China seen a clear message coming from the U.S. or clear lines of policies coming from the U.S.?
I think the situation is very clear that China has a good expectation that the renewed administration could really change some of the distorting policies by the Trump administration. But now there is a level of disappointment because when Joe Biden and Harris are seated in the White House, we do not really see any substantial move to improve the situation. And also, on the other hand, they get very vocal in teaming up with allies in the European continent and also with the Japan, etc., and trying to build a sort of fortress against China. So that's the source of disappointment. And also for China itself, they are very determined to move forward with their own plan, and that's why they proposed the double circulation, which is really a contingency plan that if globally we encounter the restrictions, particularly headed by the United States, China can really run on its own wheel.
Let's just put China aside. What is exactly the U.S. now plan, if it is public information, to share with us, in terms of to improve its trade relations with others and also to really be competitive in the international market?
Well, the export controls are not a part of our competitiveness policy. They're part of our national security policy. And they are being reviewed because the export controls have been applied much too broadly. And there's I think, a interest in trying to find a more narrowly focused strategy that doesn't hit so much trade and investment, but only the areas that are deemed truly important for national security. So that's the one part of your answer. The second part of your answer, of the answer to your question, is the source of U.S. competitiveness will start with U.S. investment in the United States. And that's why President Biden is putting so much attention on his infrastructure plan. We have been deficient in investing in the United States, in the roads, in the transportation networks, in the waterways, the airports. There are so many things that can be done that will boost the competitiveness of the United States industries, of those producing in the United States, that will make them more competitive in dealing in foreign markets. So we have to do that first, and that's a big fight to get through Congress.
Professor Dong, it seems that both China and the United States have got their own plans. Mr. Shaw just briefed us about the U.S. plan, China's plan also to increase the domestic consumption, as we earlier talked about the expos and the consumers' enthusiasm. Are we seeing much incentive and momentum to really work together at all?
Yes, I would agree again with Jeff and the statements that Jeff just made in terms of the priorities of the Biden administration. President Biden is certainly placing great emphasis in his first year on rebuilding and focusing on domestic U.S. policy, meaning the very large infrastructure bill that's being proposed, as well as the revitalization of America's industrial base. He wants to, in a sense, support those communities that have been left behind, focusing on social equity, economic equity, and environmental justice. And it does seem, in a sense, certainly will appear to China's policymakers that the Biden administration is slow walking the trade discussions. And I would certainly, I think I would agree to that. I would be cautious in terms of observing whether or not the United States is going to actually pull off a successful trade deal with China, simply because Trade Promotion Authority, which is a procedural requirement, that is up for renewal in June, and the Biden administration has given no indication whatsoever that they're interested in renewing it. So that's a necessary precondition to any trade deal, and it looks like that's going to lapse.
Very interesting, the situation. Professor Liu, what will be China's card prepared for the discussion?
Well, for China, because, as you said, that China is resolved to boost domestic consumption, so therefore the market appeal is always a very important political and economic card China used to play with any global diplomacy. Right or wrong, that's up to the debate. And the other is that China is now showing also its industrial might by having a very sophisticated industrial cluster, which cannot really be substituted by any other country, I should say, in a near and foreseeable term. And then,
what is the cluster you're talking about?
In terms of supply chain, China is having all the industrial sectors that are integrated. For example, if you go to the Greater Bay Area, if you go to the Yangtze River area, and if you really want to set up a motorcycle plant within a week, you can have all the supplies ready. But this is not really available in any other country. And for the U.S. to bring jobs back, to have it reindustrialized, and that also takes a long time. And also whether the government is really on the same page with businesses in terms of their business plan to make it more profitable. So that's something that brings a lot of uncertainty, and there has been a lot more political wishful thinking, but businesses always have their own way of managing their own operation.
We'll see. Arthur Dong, Jeffrey Shaw, Liu Baocheng, thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us. Really appreciate it. You're watching World Insight. I'm Tian Wei. Coming up in the program, my trip to Hainan at the China's first International Consumer Products Expo on this free trade port. We're going to hear companies, particularly from Europe, how do they see the China market potential? Chinese consumers are the backbone of China's growth, and likely that's of the world. Amid all global changes, the resilient buying power of Chinese consumers is bringing a rare sense of certainty. Of course, they deserve to be served with the best, and no less with this new and gigantic expo, the China International Consumer Products Expo. In Hainan, known as China's Hawaii, Take note, it's also China's first ever free trade port. And I'm here to feel the pulse of it all. And of course, a heavy duty-free shopping spree. Once we shop, we can't stop. Welcome back. This is World Insight. I'm Tian Wei. Earlier, you saw my conversations with trade experts from China and the U.S. on the future meeting of trade officials between the two countries. While politics is high on the U.S. agenda, even on trade, the businesses from all over the world are having different priorities. That's what I learned from the China International Consumer Products Expo in Hainan, also known as China's Hawaii. Let's go there for the real reality check. Beautiful flower down there.
I know,
Wow.
isn't it? It's so vibrant color.
I know.
This is a special collection that we brought specifically for the Hainan Expo. It's called Fleur Éternelle,
Wow.
so which is eternal flower. It's actually from a natural, beautiful flower petal. You know, like actually we show it here. It's all the beautifully blooming flower petals, and then we use high technology like a 3D scanner to shape the flower to be an eternal shape. And then we actually using our craftsmen's handmade skill
Like
in
shown
our
here.
Parisian studio to assemble the flower and put the beautiful gems on top of it.
And voila, it's in
I know,
Hainan.
yeah, it's in Hainan. It's a beautiful island, tropical weather. So
Yeah.
that's what we think would be the perfect fit for this show.
And Katherine has so many brands that are operating in China.
Yes, we actually is one of the largest luxury group. We have 14 international brands, from fashion to leather goods to watches and jewelry. And this time we brought the top 3 jewelry brands from carrying a group level.
That's wonderful.
Yes, and all of them have a presence in China. But for Pomalato and Boucheron, this is actually their first time in Hainan.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this is exactly the virgin
Yeah,
show.
exactly, yeah. Very famous Italian jewelry brand called Pomalato.
Yeah.
And it brought a very classic design called Sabia. Look at this necklace. Isn't it looking like moonlight on the beach?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's
Beautiful.
very poetic. And it has used many diamond pieces, all handcrafted on top of this very beautiful art piece.
It seems that every stone has a little story to
Exactly.
tell.
Yes. Yeah. The brand was created in 1967.
Yeah.
When the women's movement, independent movement, was very active. So this brand actually create jewelry pieces for women to wear, not only in big parties but also in their everyday life.
Right.
You can wear a gold chain necklace to work. You can go on travel and taking holidays, and you can do it. You can wear it even when you are doing sports.
I can see you're in love with the brand.
That's for sure. Yes.
So there are so many of them, but also not only just from the European continent, but also inspirations coming from a local culture, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. I'm going to introduce you one of the very I would say a beautiful brand that very close to my heart. It's called Qilin, which is a China brand. It gets all the inspiration from Chinese culture, like hulu,
Yes.
like Ruyi,
Like this?
and Panda. And it's a brand created by a Hong Kong designer in the 1990s.
Yeah.
But now it's really popular among all the Chinese consumers. For Hainan Expo, we
Yeah.
brought the top classic series of Qilin brand. So this is called Ruyi series.
Beautiful.
You can see, it's really draw great inspirations from Chinese cultural relics.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then we move on. This hulu shape is so well known, actually, very popular among
But really,
consumers.
it's so much in the Chinese culture.
Exactly. It also brings the great best wishes for people, bring great luck to people. So when you wear it, you really feel very happy.
You got one on your
exactly.
neck now.
I have a very special piece. This is for the Kirin brand's 15th anniversary special collection.
Oh,
Yeah, it
that's
has a
special.
ruby on top of it.
Wow,
too. Yeah,
okay.
yeah. This is a flying pig.
Oh,
Actually.
I thought it was a little panda. Okay.
Yeah, but the animal series is very popular. So the panda series called Bobo, we started with the panda series, and now we actually expanded to other animal signs as
Got
well.
all of them flying.
Yes, it's a very dynamic design, so it can fly, it can move around.
And
yeah.
I think your business in China is really flying.
Yes, we are very grateful for all the government policies and the support. The China economy is booming. Consumers are very confident about their outlook, their life improvement, and yeah, we wanted to continue to grow with the market.
Yeah, it's an amazing market, isn't it?
I know, yeah.
Just
And
look at the
also-
crowd that are visiting
Yes.
today.
Yeah, you feel this very passionate desire for making a better life, to really show that their lifestyle is improving, and the quality and the spiritual pursuit of
I
their
know
lifestyle.
you run around every year for many expos like this, but you know that's really the key message I think China is really giving others, right?
Yes, yes.
That there is such a strong desire to have a better life. Whatever is the best,
Yes.
bring them on.
像我们中东欧之家呢，是代理了在中东欧17个国家的产品，大部分都是葡萄酒，然后还有一些葵花籽油以及啤酒等比较出名的一些产品。然后我们代表的国家里头呢，有那个克罗地亚、有捷克、爱沙尼亚以及希腊等等这个
他
国家产品。
们是不是很踊跃呢？Are they very active here?
对 ，yes， 因为他们很想参与到建设自贸港的这一个队伍中来，也想借着咱们首届消博会这一次这么好的一个机会，把中东欧的产品推向全世界，这也是一个
大概
窗口
多。少个中东的产品在这里？
大概有180多种产品。
那你要了解很多关于中东欧的信息了，才
当然，
能跟大家
当然，
更多分享。
对，说的没错。
OK，我们在这里还看到 ，we are also seeing a lot of customers coming in and check. For example, this gentleman. What's your name? May I
My
have
name
your
is Hans Peter. Hi.
Hi, Hans Peter. Good to
meet
see
you.
you.
Good
Where are
to see
you
you.
from? originally?
Switzerland.
Oh, nice.
Very nice,
And
yes.
here you are visiting.
No, I stay in Sanya. Live actually in Sanya for the last 6 months already. So I'm half Sanya, half Hainanese.
Proud of it.
Yes,
already.
absolutely great place.
So what do you do? Why are you interested in the products coming from Central and Eastern European countries?
Well, I'm not just particularly interested in Central or Eastern European. I'm generally interested in products which are shown here, and it's kind of interesting to see what attracts the attention of the clients, because we are trying to import goods into Hainan, in the duty-free business in Hainan. So we are looking around what would be suitable for the duty-free market, and
The
so
duty-free market is huge here, isn't it? With
It's
this
growing,
free port,
yes,
free
it's
trade
growing, of course. A lot of investment goes into it, new players coming into the game, so I think it's a very growing market, yes.
New players coming into the game.
New players. No, but it's not new players. We are playing together with the local partners.
Yeah.
So it's not just we on one side and the others on the other side. So it's really we are playing together with local partners in the
So
business.
you come here trying to identify who could be your future partners in a way.
Not so much on the duty-free side, because there we know the people quite well, but it's more to see what products could be interesting for the duty-free market, because at the moment it's mainly cosmetics.
Yeah.
It's well, skincare as we
Yeah.
said, some watches, some jewelry, but there are many more products which would be potentially interesting for
Like
the duty-free
what?
market.
Like what?
But that's what we see.
Yeah.
I'll see where are the people. Is it alcohol? Is it, well, alcohol is in duty-free business as well, but any kind of product that may be interesting and not yet available in the duty-free channels.
So Hainan will be having a big potential for you. You are thinking of settling down for a further time.
I think Hainan has a huge potential for the whole industry. A lot of investment goes into China, into Hainan particularly, to setting this really up as a duty-free destination. And I think that is a fantastic thing and will be very successful as well in the future, yes. So yes, I'm planning to stay here a bit longer.
Wow, Hans Peter, so willing to be a Hainanese.
I try to practice my Chinese a bit more, yes.
So good to see you, Hans
to see you.
Peters.
Thank
All
you.
the best.
Thank you. Same
Thank
to
you
you.
so much. I wouldn't waste too much of your time.
Thank you.
Welcome
Thank you.
to our booth for L'Oréal.
Thank you very much. I'm very flattered to be shown around by you.
It's a big pleasure to welcome you and to let you discover a bit what we bring in this expo.
Yeah, I know sustainable development is very key to you.
Yes, and this is why we wanted to start and showing our commitment to sustainability and environment. And this is the brand Biotherm as an example, who actually, we call it the ocean lovers, the water lovers, because they had a very strong commitment towards sustainability, and they did a very strong act here in Hainan to clean the beaches and participate in making our environment a better place to be.
Did you participate?
The teams participated, and I promise that next time I will come and participate.
That's great.
But you know what is very important in the days is that brands has also a purpose, has a mission.
Of course.
And this is why I'm very happy that we partner with the
Everything
association.
About sustainable development.
Exactly.
Here.
When it comes to product, when it comes to formulation, but also when it comes to the purpose of the cause that we also bring. And this is what today consumers are expecting.
And they are looking for this.
Exactly. You know, the post-COVID shows that consumers are looking at consumption, but looking at the good consumption. What kind of impact they can also do positively. And this is where, we have today to answer to this new trend.
Right. Talking about what the consumers are looking for, sustainable development is not just about doing, donations and things, cleaning up, but rather also in all the packagings and everything.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
We have today to have also the consumers in the heart of our strategy when it comes to sustainability.
Yeah.
This is why here is an example with Lancôme where you have the refill. So this is usually consumers would buy this product. Obviously it's a very nice object, very precious object.
Yeah.
But we're proposing today to the consumers to have a refill, and this is the box that we're offering.
Yeah.
That there is a possibility actually to buy just the refill and replace your product when it's
Can
it's
you
finishing.
do that? Can you help me to do that?
Of course. And the idea of the refill is to be able to change.
To take it out.
Yes, to take it out. So when it's finished, yes, you don't waste. And in a way, it helps consumers to have the same experience, but not,
Overuse or over-consuming.
And I think this is very much the future. The future of the consumption. I just call it the good consumption because consumers are at the heart of us co-creating products for them.
So this is the key message you're trying to hammer in every time, isn't it?
Yes, we want consumers to also participate in the effort of making this world more beautiful. We bring product, but we bring as well an ecosystem with a lot of partners to be able to succeed this important mission, which we call it L'Oréal for the Future.
I really like the word ecosystem you just said. So you are actually not only bringing ecosystem environmentally friendly to here, but also have an ecosystem of all kinds of products.
Exactly. L'Oréal as a mission is beauty for all. And we recognize that consumers are very diverse and they have different also appetite, different needs. This is why we gather with all our brands to gather different consumer targets.
The China market is gigantic, isn't it? Not only that, but also what you are doing here in the China market and also have ripple effects in elsewhere in the world.
You're very right. I'm very much convinced that innovating in China is also innovating for the world.
Tell me more about that.
Chinese consumers today, they're becoming very demanding, very high expectation. And we know that the Gen Z particularly, they are very eager to consume, but they have also a lot of demands. So for us, as a #1 company in the world and #1 company here in China, we have to be relevant for these consumers and we have to innovate for them. But many of innovation, they're actually inspiring the world. And this is why we work with all our brands and the ecosystem in China to together, to bring this best for Chinese consumer and for the world.
What are exactly some of the specific demands coming from Chinese consumers that you think, with the innovation here that could be relevant elsewhere?
But for instance, in terms of skincare, we identify some innovation and product that we create in China for Chinese consumer, and they become a worldwide success. Lately, for instance, I give you one example, the brand Kerastase.
Yes.
Just actually work with understanding the insight of Chinese consumers and develop a range for scalp, which is very relevant for Chinese consumer. And you know what? It's become a blockbuster worldwide.
Wow, that's nice.
So that's what is all about L'Oréal. China is bringing the best of the world to China and bringing the best of China also to the world.
That's wonderfully said. I see you're having a very busy day today.
Yes.
Oh my God, earlier there were huge crowds over here. So how is L'Oreal looking at the China market?
You know, we look at it as very confident because we know that Chinese consumers, they love beauty, they love big brands, they love also to trust and quality of product. So we're very excited, you know, to participate in such event and be so close to the consumer, to the own partners, because we very much believe it's as I said, it's an ecosystem. It's all together which will make the consumption good and will make their life even more beautiful.
Fabrice, you're in the right place.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much.
So much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Real conversations with business leaders from European businesses, how they are looking at China. That's all we have for today. If you'd like to see more, search World Insight or check out our YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook. I'm Tian Wei. On behalf of the team, thanks for watching. Bye for now.